I was 29 years old when everything finally cracked. Not all at once, not with a scream or a slammed door. It cracked quietly, like glass under pressure that's been holding for years. My name is Alicia Stanley, and for most of my life, I was the dependable one, the calm one, the daughter who didn't cause problems, the sister who fixed them. From the outside, my life looked solid. I was the first in my family to graduate college. I bought my own house before 30. I had a career I'd built from the ground up, step by exhausting step. No shortcuts, no safety net, just long nights, skipped vacations, and the constant pressure of being the one who had it together. My parents liked to brag about me to other people. To me, they mostly just assumed I'd always be there. My younger brother, Caleb, was the opposite. Every few years, his life imploded in a new and creative way. Lost jobs, maxed out credit cards, big plans that evaporated the moment responsibility showed up. And somehow, every one of his disasters became a family emergency. When Caleb overdrafted his account, my parents covered it. When he racked up credit card debt, they helped him get back on track. When he wanted a vacation he couldn't afford, he dipped into the family emergency fund, an account we all contributed to, and somehow never paid back. I noticed. I always noticed. But I stayed quiet because keeping the peace had become my role. The unspoken trade-off was simple. I stayed stable, and everyone else stayed comfortable. The bitterness crept in slowly, like background noise you don't realize is there until it stops. Things shifted the year I got promoted. It wasn't just a raise, it was a major jump. More responsibility, more visibility, and a relocation option to another state. A real one, the kind of opportunity people build entire futures around. For the first time in a long time, I felt proud of myself without needing anyone else's approval. When I told my parents, they congratulated me, but something felt off. My mom smiled too quickly. My dad asked about the salary before asking how I felt about the move. I didn't realize it then, but that was the moment my success stopped being mine. A week later, my phone rang. Caleb. He didn't say hello. I lost my job, he said flatly. So you're going to have to help with my mortgage until I get back on my feet. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain needed a second to catch up with the audacity. That laugh detonated him. This isn't funny, Alicia, he snapped. I'm serious. I sat up straighter, my pulse already climbing. What do you mean, I'm going to have to? You make way more than I do, he said, like it was a legal argument. I'm not losing my house because you're too selfish to help. Selfish. The word landed hard, not because it was true, but because it was familiar. It was the same word my family always used when I didn't immediately give in. I tried to keep my voice steady. What happened to your savings? I don't have any, he shot back, offended by the question. And why do you think your mortgage is my responsibility? There was a pause. Then he said it, the line that always ended conversations. Because you're family. That's what family does. Something in my chest tightened. I'm not paying your mortgage, I said clearly. The silence that followed was thick. Then anger. You're unbelievable, Caleb hissed. Fine. I'll remember this. He hung up. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my father. If you don't step up for your brother, you're out of the will. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Out of the will, like I'd been waiting for it. Like I'd been living my life with my hand out, instead of working 2 jobs through college and signing my first mortgage alone in a bank office that smelled like stale coffee and fear. That night, my boyfriend Ethan found me sitting at my kitchen table in the dark. He didn't push, he didn't lecture. He just sat down across from me and said quietly, "They're doing it again, aren't they?" I nodded. "They always need a villain," he added. "And you stopped volunteering." Something about that broke through me. I didn't cry. I didn't call my parents to argue. I didn't text Caleb to negotiate. I opened my laptop, and I quietly removed my name from every shared family account. The emergency fund, the old savings account tied to my parents, even the cabin account that was supposed to be for family getaways. If they were going to treat me like the bad guy, I wasn't going to leave my money sitting there waiting to be drained. By morning, I had dozens of missed calls. My mom, my dad, Caleb, my aunt, even cousins I barely spoke to. The messages ranged from guilt to threats. Family sticks together. You're being cruel. You'll regret this. I didn't answer any of them. For the first time, I let myself feel real anger. Not irritation, not disappointment, but the kind that makes your hands shake. It wasn't about the money. It was about the assumption, the entitlement. The idea that my stability existed to cushion everyone else's bad decisions. The next family dinner was only days away, and I already knew I was going. Not to apologize, not to explain, but because something inside me was done hiding. The dinner was at my parents' house, like always. Normally I loved it, my dad's roast, the familiar clatter of dishes, the illusion that we were a normal, functional family. This time, my stomach twisted the entire drive over. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. Everyone was already seated, not casually gathered, not milling around. Seated, like they'd been waiting. Caleb sat next to my mom, arms crossed, wearing that smug look he got when he thought he'd already won. My dad cleared his throat like I was late to a meeting. "Alicia," he said, gesturing to the empty chair. "Sit down. We need to talk as a family." I sat. My guard was already up. My mom didn't waste time. Caleb's under a lot of stress, and laughing at him when he called for help was completely inappropriate. "I didn't laugh at him losing his job," I said calmly. "I laughed because he told me I was going to pay his mortgage like it was an order." Caleb leaned forward. "Because you should. You're the only one who can afford it." Something in me hardened. "No," I said. "I can afford things because I work for them. I'm not responsible for your mortgage." My dad folded his hands. "You have to understand, his house is all he has." The irony was suffocating. "He has this house," I said. "You've let him move back in before. This isn't about survival. It's about the fact that for once, I'm not fixing his mess." Caleb's face reddened. "You think you're better than me now? Because you've got some fancy job?" "I don't think I'm better," I said quietly. "I think I'm tired of being treated like my hard work is a community piggy bank." My mom sighed dramatically. "We've always helped each other. I never asked you for money," I cut in. "I worked 2 jobs. I slept in my car one semester because I couldn't make rent. I didn't ask for help." For a moment, the table went silent. Then Caleb sniffed, slipping into the wounded act. "I just don't understand why you hate me so much you'd watch me lose my house." And that's when it clicked. This was never about help. It was about control, about punishing me for saying no. I leaned back slowly, my voice low. "You've gotten so used to everyone bending for you that the second someone says no, you act like it's an attack." My dad stood up sharply. "That's enough, Alicia." But I wasn't done. "No," I said, "it's not." And as I looked around that table, at my parents' rigid faces, at my brother's calculated tears, I knew one thing with terrifying certainty. This wasn't the worst thing they were going to do. This was just the beginning. The fallout didn't wait. It never does when a family is used to controlling the narrative. By Monday morning, my phone felt heavier than usual. Not physically, but emotionally. Every vibration came with a jolt of dread, like my body already knew what the message would say before I even looked. Caleb had started calling extended family. My aunt left a voicemail that opened with a sigh and ended with, "I just don't understand how you could turn your back on your own brother." A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years texted me, "Heard you're refusing to help. That's pretty cold, Alicia." The story spread fast, and it spread crooked. In their version, Caleb wasn't a grown man who'd overextended himself. He was a victim, a brother abandoned, a hardworking guy who'd just had some bad luck. And I was the villain with the good job who'd forgotten where she came from. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But every message felt like another tiny cut, reopening memories I'd spent years shoving down. Every time I saw my name pop up, I felt that familiar pull to explain myself, to smooth things over, to fix it. I didn't. That was new. Then Caleb took it public. He didn't mention me by name, of course. He He didn't have to. He posted a long, emotional paragraph on Facebook about how some people would rather watch family lose everything than lend a helping hand, and how he was praying for strength during this difficult season. The comments flooded in. Money changes people. Sad when success makes someone forget family. I'd never let my sibling go through that. I closed the app and stared at the ceiling. What hurt most wasn't the strangers agreeing with him. It was how familiar the accusations felt. Like echoes from childhood, every time I was told to be the bigger person, to let things go, to understand that Caleb needed more. I remembered the school trip I didn't go on because the savings account I'd put my summer job money into had been emptied to cover one of his messes. I remembered being praised for being so mature, like maturity was a prize instead of a burden. By the time the next family dinner rolled around, I already knew it wasn't going to be just the four of us. I saw the cars before I even parked. My aunt's SUV, my uncle's truck, even my grandmother's old sedan. It looked less like a dinner and more like a summit. I sat in my car for a full minute, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. Part of me wanted to drive away and never come back. Another part, the part that had been quiet for too long, needed to see this through. When I walked in, voices dropped mid-sentence. I caught fragments as I passed the hallway. "She's being ridiculous." Caleb's voice, sharp and aggrieved. "She could pay the whole mortgage tomorrow and not even feel it. We just have to make her see reason." My dad. Reason. As if refusing to bankroll someone else's life was irrational. I stepped into the dining room, and the silence that followed was heavy. My grandmother sat at the end of the table, hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked tired, disappointed, and something in my chest sank when our eyes met. My dad gestured to the chair again. "Sit down, Alicia. We need to settle this." Caleb leaned forward immediately, his voice already loaded with drama. "I've done everything I can," he said, like he was giving testimony. "I sold my jewelry. I canceled my gym membership. I even stopped ordering takeout." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so carefully curated. "I'm doing my part," he continued. "But if I miss this month's payment, they'll start foreclosure." He looked straight at me. "Do you really want that on your conscience?" I met his gaze, steady. "You've had months to address this. Why didn't you get a roommate? Talk to the bank. Look for a short-term job." His lip curled. "Because you're family, Alicia. You've always been the one with the safety net." There it was. The table turned toward me like a spotlight. My dad cleared his throat. "Your mother and I went to the bank this week." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "We took out a line of credit against the cabin property," he said matter-of-factly, "to help Caleb. It was the right thing to do." The room tilted. The cabin wasn't just theirs. It was supposed to be ours, mine, Caleb's, and my cousin's someday. The one thing we were all told would be shared equally. The last piece of family legacy that hadn't already been chipped away. "You didn't tell me," I said quietly. My mom bristled. "We didn't need your permission. You made it clear you don't care about this family's problems." I let out a bitter laugh. "So let me get this straight. You told me I was out of the will if I didn't help Caleb. I said fine. And your solution was to mortgage part of my future anyway?" Caleb crossed his arms, smug. "It's not your inheritance yet, and I'll pay it back when I'm back on my feet." I looked at him. "Like you paid back the emergency fund? Or the car money from 2 years ago?" His face flushed. "That's enough," my dad snapped. But my grandmother spoke before he could continue. "He's right," she said softly. The room stilled. "You should have told her," she added, looking at my parents. "That wasn't fair." My dad waved it off. "We did what was necessary." Something broke then. Not loudly, not dramatically, just finally. I stood up slowly. "You've made your choice," I said, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. "And you've made it clear where I stand." Mom narrowed her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic," I repeated. "You gambled with the one thing tying me to this family, and you didn't hesitate." I looked at Caleb. At the triumph he didn't bother hiding. "I'm done being your backup plan," I said. "Congratulations. You don't have to worry about that anymore." I walked out before anyone could stop me. I sat in my car afterward, staring at the dashboard until my hands stopped shaking. I wasn't just hurt, I was done. Done being the good daughter. Done being the safety net. Done being quiet while Caleb got away with everything. And as I drove home, something else surfaced beneath the anger. Clarity. I remembered things, details, documents, conversations from years ago when I'd helped my parents organize paperwork, sat in on estate planning meetings, made copies, just in case. They'd forgotten how much I knew. When I got home, the house felt too quiet. I sank onto the couch and finally let the grief wash over me. The family I thought I had, the version of them that only existed when I was useful. That night, messages poured in. A long group text from my parents about cooling off. A separate message from Caleb with a crying emoji and, "You really hurt me tonight." I didn't respond. The next week, I went through the motions at work, but my mind was elsewhere. One evening, I dug an old box out of my closet. Paperwork I hadn't looked at in years. Trust documents, tax forms, cabin property records. And there it was, my name, listed as a backup trustee. My pulse steadied. I wasn't ready to act yet. But for the first time, I understood something important. I wasn't powerless. And whatever came next, I wasn't going to play nice anymore. The silence that followed was deliberate. I didn't announce that I was stepping back. I didn't give speeches or send dramatic messages. I just stopped reacting. And in my family, that alone felt like an act of rebellion. The first Sunday I skipped dinner, my mom left a voicemail that sounded more irritated than concerned. "I hope you're done sulking," she said. "This isn't healthy." My dad sent a text that was shorter, colder. "We're disappointed in you." Caleb, of course, escalated. He posted another vague update online about toxic relatives and fake family, paired with a quote about choosing peace. A few mutual friends messaged me, asking if everything was okay. I muted everything. I needed space, not to cool off, but to think. At work, everyone assumed I was stressed about the promotion and upcoming relocation. I let them. It was easier than explaining that my entire understanding of family loyalty had just collapsed. I threw myself into my job with an intensity that surprised even me. Late nights didn't feel draining anymore. They felt purposeful. I started working out again, something I'd let slide for years because I was always too busy. I said yes to dinners with friends I'd been postponing for months. For the first time, my life wasn't organized around the possibility that my family might need me. And then the letter arrived. It was from the bank, addressed to me, because my name was still attached to one of the family accounts tied to the cabin property. I stood in my kitchen, holding the envelope, my heart pounding as I read the notice. It was formal, polite, and alarming. A confirmation of the line of credit my parents had taken out. The amount made my stomach turn. They hadn't just dipped into the cabin's value. They'd leveraged nearly all of it. Something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in resolve. That night, I pulled the old paperwork back out, spread it across my kitchen table like a map. Trust documents, loan notices, notes I'd taken years ago when I'd helped my parents organize their estate. I remembered sitting with them back then, explaining things carefully, making sure everything was filed properly. They'd trusted me with the details because I was good with that stuff, and they'd forgotten I still had it all. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with the estate lawyer who'd helped set everything up. Sitting in his office felt surreal, like stepping into a version of my life that had been quietly waiting for me to catch up. He adjusted his glasses as he reviewed the documents. "You're listed as a backup trustee," he said. "That gives you certain rights, access to records, the ability to request a full accounting." "And oversight?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Yes, especially if there's potential mismanagement." That word settled in my chest like a weight. Mismanagement. I didn't say anything to my family yet. Outwardly, I played it cool. When my mom called the following week, I answered politely. I told her work was busy. I didn't argue when she said Caleb was trying so hard to find another job. I even agreed to come to dinner the next Sunday. But inside, I was planning. I knew I didn't need another emotional confrontation. I didn't need to yell or defend myself. I needed facts and leverage. Before the dinner, I did something else. A coworker mentioned casually that our company was opening a new branch not far from my parents' town. Not just an office, an expansion. They'd be hiring aggressively for support, admin, and marketing roles. Good jobs, stable pay, benefits. Jobs Caleb could absolutely apply for. I bookmarked the postings and printed them out, not to hand to him yet. I wanted to see how far he'd push the narrative that he had no options. Dinner that Sunday was different. No ambush, no raised voices. Everyone acted almost normal, like the last few weeks had been a misunderstanding they were ready to move past. I didn't correct them. When my mom asked how work was going, I didn't downplay it. I wrapped a big project, I said casually. My boss praised it in front of the department. And my relocation package is finalized. Movers, temporary housing, the works. Caleb looked up from his phone, eyes narrowing. You're really moving? End of next month, I said lightly. My dad cleared his throat. Before you go, we'll need to go over some of the accounts and documents you're still listed on. I smiled. Oh, I already took care of that. The table went quiet. You what? Caleb said, his fork clattering against his plate. I removed my name from everything weeks ago, I replied calmly. Didn't seem fair to have my name tied to things I don't have a say in. My mom pressed her lips together but didn't argue. Grandma sat quietly, sipping her tea, watching. For the first time, I left dinner feeling good, not relieved. Empowered. Over the next few weeks, my life gained momentum. My boss asked me to lead a major presentation for a senior client, an opportunity that could open serious doors. I met with a financial advisor and separated every last asset from my family's reach. Each step felt like cutting another string. Meanwhile, Caleb's situation worsened. He still hadn't found a job. He'd missed another mortgage payment. Word traveled, as it always did. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt steady. Then the lawyer emailed me. He wanted to schedule a meeting to review the status of the cabin property. Routine, he said. But since I was still listed as a backup trustee, he needed my signature on a few documents before my relocation. That meeting changed everything. He laid out the numbers, the debt, the repayment schedule. They're already behind, he said carefully. If they miss another payment, they'll be in default. I walked out of that office with copies of everything and a strange sense of calm. This wasn't revenge. This was information. And information was power. That night, I spread the papers across my table again, highlighting clauses, making notes. The truth was undeniable. They'd borrowed more than the remaining value of the cabin. If the bank forced a sale, the entire legacy would be gone. At first, I felt sick. Then I felt clear. I scheduled another meeting with the lawyer, just the two of us. I asked about my options. He explained them carefully. Request a full accounting. Demand updates. Petition the court if I believed the asset was being mismanaged. I listened. And when I left, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I didn't tell my family right away. I kept showing up, smiling politely, letting them think things were settling. And quietly, I made the first move. I asked the lawyer to draft a formal request for a full financial accounting of the trust. Nothing aggressive, nothing emotional, just official. When I saw the document in my inbox, my hands didn't shake. I wasn't the peacekeeper anymore. I was watching. And the second they opened that letter, they were going to realize something important. I wasn't just Alicia, the reliable daughter. I was a problem they could no longer ignore. I expected silence after the letter went out. At least a day. Maybe 2. I didn't expect my dad to call less than 24 hours later. Alicia, he said, skipping the greeting. His voice was tight, the voice he used when he was trying very hard not to raise it. What is this letter we just received from the lawyer? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. It's a request for the trust's financial records. I'm listed as a backup trustee. I have a right to see them. You're turning this into a legal issue, he snapped. We're family. I know, I said evenly. And I'm not contesting anything. I just want transparency. There was a long silence on the line. "You didn't have to go through a lawyer," he finally said. "Yes," I replied quietly. "I did." His breath caught just enough for me to hear it. That was the moment he understood. I wasn't bluffing. The next Sunday, I showed up to dinner dressed like I was heading to a meeting, clean, composed, unbothered. I didn't storm in. I didn't glare. I hugged my mom, nodded to my dad, and sat down like everything was normal. Caleb looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Dinner was stiff. Nobody brought up money at first. Forks scraped, glasses clinked too loudly. Halfway through the meal, my dad cleared his throat. "We got your request," he said. "The paperwork's being prepared." I nodded. "Good." Caleb scoffed. "This is so dramatic. You're acting like they stole from you." I set my fork down gently. "You used a shared asset without consulting everyone who had a stake in it. That's not theft, but it is mismanagement." My mom flinched at the word. "I'm not here to fight," I continued calmly. "I'm here to make sure that from now on, there's transparency. Every dollar related to the cabin gets documented and shared. If payments are late, I'll know. If the bank threatens foreclosure, I'll know." Caleb rolled his eyes. "You'd really drag your own parents into court?" I met his gaze without blinking. "If it means protecting the one thing Grandma wanted all of us to have, yes." The room went quiet. Then Grandma spoke, her voice soft but steady. "She's right. It was wrong not to tell her." That was the first real crack in the wall. I let the silence sit before reaching into my bag. "Oh," I said lightly, "I brought something for you, Caleb." His eyes narrowed as I slid a stack of papers across the table. "They're job postings," I said. "Local, good pay, benefits. I highlighted the ones you qualify for. Applications open this week." His face flushed. "You think this is funny?" "Not at all," I replied. "I think it's a solution." He shoved the papers back toward me. "I'm not taking some hand-me-down job you picked out for me." I shrugged and tucked them away. "That's your choice, but don't say nobody tried to help." After that, the energy shifted. They weren't cornering me anymore. They were watching me. Over the next few weeks, the full accounting came in. I reviewed every page. Late payments, fees piling up, a tight margin before default. I sent one short email to my parents, professional, detached. "Thank you for the documentation. Please provide quarterly updates going forward. Confirm repayment plans and timelines." A week later, my mom called. "We should have told you," she admitted quietly. "Your father and I talked." I didn't rush to fill the silence. "We're making the payments," she added quickly. "We don't want you to worry." "I'm not worried," I said gently. "I'm informed," she exhaled. "Are you still coming to dinner?" "Yes," I said, "but finances go through the lawyer now." That Sunday felt almost peaceful. Caleb barely spoke. My dad avoided the topic entirely. Grandma leaned over at dessert and whispered, "I think they're starting to get it." I thought so too, but I wasn't done. 2 weeks later, a polite letter from the bank arrived. The cabin property's line of credit had officially slipped into default. I stared at the page for a long time. This was the moment everything turned. I emailed the lawyer immediately, requesting an emergency meeting to protect my share of the property. Then I went to dinner like nothing was wrong. Halfway through the meal, my dad finally spoke. "I assume you saw the notice." "I did," I said calmly. "We're working on it," he said quickly. "We just need more time." I nodded. "That's good, because I'm making changes." Caleb frowned. "What kind of changes?" I leaned forward. "I'm petitioning the court to legally separate my share of the cabin from the trust. It won't be tied to your debt anymore." My mom gasped. "You can't do that," my dad said sharply. "Yes, I can," I replied. "I already have." Caleb slammed his fork down. "So you're just leaving us to deal with this?" I met his eyes. "Yes." The silence was crushing. "You're really willing to burn this bridge?" my dad asked. I shook my head. "No, I'm just done letting you light it on fire and expecting me to put it out." I stood, pulled a folder from my bag, and placed it on the table. Inside were the job postings, the bank forms, the forbearance application. "This is everything you need," I said quietly. "Whether you use it is up to you." At the door, I turned back one last time. "I love you," I said. but I'm done sacrificing my future to save you from your choices." Then I left. The aftermath was quiet. The petition went through. My share of the cabin was protected. A week later, my mom texted, "We're making the payments." Then a photo from Grandma. Caleb in business casual. First day at a new job. On my last night before relocating, I drove to the cabin alone. The lake was calm. The air was still. For the first time, I wasn't leaving with guilt or anger. I was leaving free.